Welcome back to the third installment of our weekly Admins Developments podcast for the weekly Thursday game that we're playing in Mediocre Strategist at the moment. Today I won't be joined by anyone as my previous co-host has died on his nation, Kazan, and none of the mods is available to record with me currently. So I'll just give you a quick overview of the nations that are currently in the game and how they did last week. And I'll try to make it a bit quicker than it usually was, which I think should be possible given that it's just me talking now. As always, we'll start with Portugal here. And we'll have a quick look at how he's doing. As always, Portugal is a player that I can not say too many things about, but there are a few fun quirks about his nations that I can point out. One of them is that the capital of Portugal is currently the island of Minorca, so he's very locked in to the Mediterranean with that. It's probably a way to keep him safe, honestly, and I think it will work at that. He'll most likely not have any trouble staying safe. Tech-wise, he's behind a bit, but there's also no need to take up at the moment, so might as well wait for a few neighbor bonuses to apply to him. Innovativeness is looking very good, actually, or I don't know if that's very good. I think it looks very good. As you'd expect from him, ideas are finished. It's a well-rounded looking nation. He's also having a foothold. I think I can show it this way. Yeah, he's having a foothold in America through his played colonial nation Portuguese Brazil, which is ever expanding and also grew quite large this session. And he's going his way to Asia at the moment, although I can't see him actually owning anything there yet. Like, closest thing he has to foothold in Asia would be the Cocos Islands, I think. Yeah, also it would appear he doesn't have any colonists en route, so I expect that's the extent we're going to see him. I mean, we can just quickly check where his colonies. Okay, he's currently just helping his Brazilian colony expanding, which I guess makes sense for him, because that can be a power base for him in the future, having a strong ally in Brazil. Okay, I think that's enough to look at Portugal. Oh, actually, one more quirk we need to look at. He's Shinto. That is something to point out. Brazil is Protestant, as you be more forgiven to expect. Also, Andalusia is Ibadi, which is also a fun quirk. But yeah, Shinto Portugal, that was done through a province in Galicia, if I'm not mistaken, that was owned by Uesugu, who's now Japan briefly. So just keep that in mind for the future. Portugal is now a Shinto country. Also something to point out about Iberia as a whole, I guess. Actually, let's talk about that when we talk about Andalusia. One thing to point out about Iberia is that the Aztecs have arrived at the Sunset Invasion. They were able to secure Granada in a war they had with Andalusia, which gave them a foothold into Iberia. The Castilians tried to fight this off, but lost, so we now have a firm Sunset Invasion on our hands by the Aztecs here. I mean, to be fair, it is a kind of a situation to have a Nahuatl Aztec own a Shinto province in Iberia in 1540. That's not something you see every day. But speaking of Andalusia itself, I mean, he lost the war to Aztecs, and I'm expecting him to not love the Aztecs. Well, he also lost to Songhai. He lost his gold mine to them. He lost his defendability to some degree. He's still building a bit weird forts to me. Like, wouldn't you try to have a mountain fort here? Actually, he got rid of the fort in Fez. It's just beyond me, this man's fort game. But just keep in mind, this is only highlands. And this is a mountain, and it has the same control. Like, Fort in Magnus will control Figwick, but it will also control invasions from the north. Same is true for Fez. So maybe consider building a fort either here or here to have the same control that this one gives, but with the added benefit of being a mountain fort and also the added benefit of stopping invasions from the north. Same is actually true about... No, it's actually not. You can't build a mountain fort here. You could build one in Haha, I suppose. That's not quite the same thing. Could make sense. Actually, he's building... No, it's not a fort. He's building a workshop. Maybe a fort in Marrakesh, honestly. It's a valuable province you have, and it stops invasions through Dimnate and from the south. I mean, again, this is just... Your only protection is basically 2 highland forts. If this were my country, I might have gone a bit different here. Build a fort in Marrakesh and Meknes, maybe have two very strong mountain forts. I feel like those could serve you better than this one does. Especially because I'm not sure about this one at all, honestly. Because if you get attacked by Songhai, he might be able to cross into Demnate and Sus and just sit in defendable terrain, which is a mountain and highlands, and then siege down your other highland fort, and then have all the open way into your country from down here. So actually, I think that's very much possible. I mean, he can be in Tafifalt and in Dra, he can just walk to Demnate and Sus and sit on your fort. So this is basically, if Songhai has enough troops, this fort doesn't exist. It doesn't matter, and all your country is open from the south. Okay, so let's look why Andalusia is maybe not building forts. He's still in debt. That's something to point out here. Still has rebels. Yeah, it's still not looking that great for him, I'd say. And the expansion that Aztecs did just hurt him by losing this land. It didn't benefit him in any way by Castile now being not a factor. I suppose he could attack Aragon, trying to get some of this land. It is possible. I don't know how weakened Aragon would be in this situation, but keep in mind you can fabricate an Aragon, and actually you can fabricate right now, actually, with the spy network you have. So maybe that's something you want to try, especially because Valencia could be a valuable node for you. Like, there's no one else in Valencia, and if I'm not mistaken, Valencia should be a way better node than Salfi is, especially because you can probably, you don't have any control over Sevilla. But maybe, as I said, Valencia could be an interesting way to go for you. France isn't in a great shape right now, so I don't see them really doing anything. Yeah, you might get into trouble with Tuscany doing that. But actually, I think expansion into Aragon is a possibility that Andalusia shouldn't dismiss when looking at things. There's also a colonial nation here, but I think he used to be here with his colonial nation, so I guess he lost. Yeah, this is Andalusian. He lost the war with his colonial nation to the Inca. Unsurprisingly, the New World is really giving him a hard time. Yeah, it's not great for him. Actually, it's now also building La Plata, so I guess this is the new home that Andalusia is trying to go for. Yeah, it's tough in Europe. You need to do multiplayer, I think. You need European allies to keep you safe. Or, join the Sunset Invasion. That's also a possibility. Ally the Aztecs and kill Aragon with them. You getting Aragon out of the deal might work. That's just a question of how you do your diplomacy. Okay, I think we can let that be it in terms of Andalusia and take a look at Songhai next. Actually, let's give the building situation. Yeah, not many buildings, but very good buildings still left to build. So you really need peace. I'd just suggest maybe playing tall or something here. This is absolutely salvageable, especially because as long as the Aztecs are fine with you and you kind of keep Songhai in check, which Songhai might not be doing that great themselves, we'll have to see about that. You have peace, at least. Mamluks is unlikely to come because this land is an absolute dog shit. So it would take a while for Mamluk to actually get into land that matters. So you have a bit of peace on your hand. Utilize that. Try to get your country stable finally. And then try to make money, dev it up, and build buildings, because that's the only way you're going to get moving somewhere. And you really need to do it soonish, or you'll just get outgrown by everyone else to a degree where you just get irrelevant with this nation. Okay, Songhai. Yeah, he's not doing too bad. He could just overrun Andalusia if he wanted to do that. But he also still have vessels left. He's annexing Timbuktu at the moment, which will link him up here. Which, good thing for him. Not doing terribly well idea-wise. Actually, it's something we didn't look at for Andalusia. It's 9 ideas for Andalusia and 4 for Songhai. Okay, just both are abysmal. Songhai being even worse, though. You're not playing out the strength that your nation has in terms of military ideas with this. He's not unlocked the military ideas except for the infantry combat ability. I'm not sure how it is for Andalusia, but I'd expect them to be about equal, maybe, considering Tech Mali from your tech group. Yeah. Also, Golden Era already gone. Why can you... This is weird. Why am I able to take... Is this because of debug mode, maybe? It could be because of debug mode. Don't take Spanish Tertio, even if you can. That would be an exploit. You could be a defender of the Sunni faith, but not much value in this. You'll just get dragged into wars you don't want to be in. There are buildings to build, though. Like, if it's 10, go ahead and build that. If it brings 10, your manufactories are worse than the workshops you can build. Taxation, I mean, it's different opinions on that. Your income is very dependent on gold at the moment, so maybe I think getting workshops wouldn't be a bad idea for you. Also, maybe... Yeah, you didn't build any manpower until now. Like, at least those are very good. You're sitting on a lot of money, just spend that. There's no real reason to just sit around on it. Also, you might want to get... I mean, you make 26 ducats a month. Why do you have so shitty advisors? Get better advisors. Also, your advisors are quite expensive from what I can tell. Don't know if that's something region-specific that you just can't do anything about. But they seem quite expensive to me. Actually, might be fine. Might be fine. Could be related to inflation. Might be, yeah, actually 20% advisor cost. Yeah, it's probably related to inflation. My bad. But still, get some better advisors. I think you can really afford to do so. And then, after that, in your situation, I might have gone for expansion ideas. To just gobble up a bit more land in Africa, but I guess that could put you at odds with people like Portugal. Yeah, but your idea situation is very problematic, so you need to focus on mana generation. Actually, a republic. Are you a republic? What's this? It's a sultanate. Oh, it's States General. Okay. Yeah, I mean, States General can make sense for you. Also, you can re-roll your kings if you want to. Having a lot of admin isn't that great. I mean, you do have admin ideas. I'd say delay the admin tech for now. Textile manufacturing probably isn't worth that much, and try to push through your admin ideas, for your economic ideas to finish the national ideas you have, because they are very strong and will help you a lot. But I mean, you're lacking behind a lot on mill ideas, so might actually go for a mill focus if you're lacking behind in 2 mill ideas, and get a better advisor. Most categories actually just go up to level 2 advisors through the board here. Set a focus on something that you need most, which is probably mill in this situation, as I said. Other than that, I think you're pretty set to go. You're making a lot of money. You just need to convert that into actual nation strength, because that's surprisingly low for the amount of money you're making at the moment. Okay, let's look at the other African nation that we have, which is Mutapa. I know that they were at war with Yemen multiple times and lost those, so I expect some damage from that in the country. I mean, not too much depth, but like the amount of troops is lowered a bit. And he appears to be at war with Matthias, which could... the conquest of Bessalampi. I'd expect that to be against... No, it's actually... Where on earth is Bessalampi? Let's have a look. Oh, it's here. How did Matthias get a claim on this? Might be some mission shenanigans I don't know anything about. But I'd be surprised if Matthias were able to win this. Like, it's just Matthias, and don't know what their ground troops would be like, but I think it would be unlikely for them to be able to land anything against you. Might want some transport ships, though, because, I mean, fair enough, he has 15 heavies. I'm just not sure those 15 heavies will actually be able to stop you. Like, you have 4 sea tiles, or is that 5? No, it's 4. 4 sea tiles from which you can start your transport ships and bring troops over to Madagascar, which is what he will probably try. Overwhelm your 18k. Actually, we can have a look at Matthias for now. And see if he's bringing troops. Oh, what's the tag for Matthias? Mass, okay. Okay, this army. Oh, it's on the Comoros. That's where he got the claim. He colonized the Comoros. That's a bit of an oversight by Ethiopia, honestly. Why didn't Ethiopia take this land? Oh, Okay, so there are 30k troops here. He has just 30 heavies. Where's his transport fleet? Is this his transport fleet? Okay, so he is ready to embark 30k more troops, so you can expect 60k troops being in Madagascar very shortly. Yeah, you'll have a problem holding on to Madagascar with this. Like, you're not projecting your power over here. The question is, will war score actually be that much in their favor? Like, there are no forts on Madagascar. If there are enough forts in the Mutapan mainland, I think this wouldn't go over 50. I mean, there's nothing forcing them to peace out. So it's not quite a called thing yet. Depends on how Mutapa wants to go over this. I mean, Madagascar isn't terribly great land, but also someone else being in Madagascar, of course, also hires the opportunity for people to invade you. Like if they can land their allies onto Madagascar and just have one-tile transfers for the transport ships over to your mainland, that might get you into trouble as Mutapa, even in the gold-rich region down here, which that would be the death sentence for Mutapa. So be careful with that, I guess. We have Rebel close to... Where the fuck is Busoga? That's probably up here, right? Yeah, so he's fighting that, he's dealing with that. Other than that, it looks pretty stable. I think his ideas were better. Yeah, he has more ideas than the other guys, way more actually than Songhai. But he doesn't have Admin Tech 10 yet, which is close to embracing there. Actually, let's have another look at Matthias. Which ideas did he take? Economic exploration quantity. So you can expect Mutapa's troops to be able to beat Matthias's here. Yeah, it's like in an equal battle, I think Mutapa really has the upper hand. Problem is, he only has 18k here. Most of them being mercenaries. Okay, so you know 60k are coming for you. 30k at a time, but you don't know if you're going to be able to get there in time. You need to be paying attention of that, obviously. I mean, it will take him a while to land, so you might get landing bonuses to help you in combat. I'd advise to build more troops. Like if you go up to 30k with your troops on Madagascar, I think you should be fine in most encounters. I don't really... Like 2-1 outnumbering from Matthias could still be fine for you, especially because there is good combat terrain. You can be in the jungle or in the highlands to defend yourself. That could work out for you. But try to catch them before they land. It would be the best thing for you to just move where they try to land and stop them from doing the landing, or actually let them land into you, which would be even better. Actually, which is also a good thing about Madagascar. I suppose he doesn't see you if you're in the inlands, and you can be only one province away from being able to stop him, and he doesn't see you. So keep that in mind. Maybe if you're like there's this line of provinces where he doesn't see you on. So if he's like landing in maybe the province he claimed, I don't know, Bessalampi here, just stay here and move in as soon as he lands. If you time it right and arrive like a few days before he does, you might have a chance at catching his stack off guard with a landing bonus of -2. That would be huge. It would be probably a win and a stack wipe here in Madagascar. So if you play it right, I don't see much of a risk of losing Madagascar, but you need to pay attention to the war there, and you can't be distracted with things like Yemen, which is something we'll look at soonish. I mean, money-wise, obviously it's a gold-driven economy, you should be doing fine on that. I don't see much else to say. Like, he's a bit of a political problem just around him. He needs to have more friends and better friends, I think. Like his only ally is Ethiopia, and he's slowly dying to Yemen. So he might want to look like one or two nations further to see like his enemy's enemy. Maybe he can strike a deal with Mamluks after Ethiopia is dead, given that Yemen is an enemy or as a friend of Qara, which might put Mamluks into an awkward position. Who doesn't have many friends, by the way. It's just Songhai. So I think there are alliance options for Mutapa. I don't really know if Matthias has any player enemies to speak of. Ethiopia, probably not a real enemy. Yeah, also Mutapa, maybe ditch Ethiopia and take his land. Like, this is valuable after all. I mean, Ethiopia is probably not coming back. No allies to do so with. Other than that, I think what we see in Mutapa is very much fine. Oh, he's still tribal. but he's getting closer to his reform. Yeah, that could be a bit of an issue for him. Okay, last African nation will be Ethiopia here. Used to be looking better than this, that's obvious. Yeah, he's lacking up behind on ideas, which Yemen is exploiting drastically down here. He's just overrunning Ethiopia. We have 370 great power score for Ethiopia against what for Yemen? 410, so actually Yemen also outscaled Ethiopia by this point. Yeah, things are looking dire for Ethiopia. I don't really see them coming back. Yemen has his own mountains now to protect him. He can just come back once the truce is up and beat this up. The Ethiopian troops just aren't able to stop the Yemeni troops, I think. I mean, maybe you can salvage something by going colonial, but you aren't colonizing right now, so... yeah, you would have to do that soon. Actually... it's a bit of a problem that this land is actually important to Yemen down here. Otherwise, I'd say try to roleplay as a Somali pirate on the Somali coast. But yeah, that will be hard to convince people of when Yemen does want that land to control its own trade node. Yeah, and that many great options for Ethiopia, really. Not much I can say about it. It's just bound to be gobbled up by Yemen, in my opinion. Not much to do to stop that. Speaking of Yemen, yeah, look at this army. It's just numbers, and with great quality. Yemen obviously has great troops, more discipline through the decisions. Could also get the Shia defender of faith pretty easily. Yeah, that's... I think even his economy is better than looking at Ethiopia's. Yeah, Yemen will own all of this, and actually that makes Yemen pretty relevant in the short term, no, mid-term, let's say. Especially against Mamluks, because Mamluks is looking awfully boxed in by people. There's not many places to go for them. Qara is actually expanding around them at the moment, which is very weird for nations that you'd expect to be at peace, but Qara is expanding into Hungary. And Mamluks is just sitting here doing what exactly? That's a bit of a tough sell for me to say it's going to be going good, especially Papal State is moving in here. There's Andalusia with shitty land that you don't really want. Yemen is taking all the good land in Ethiopia. You might leave this, but like that's all desert. It's just doesn't matter in anything really. Yeah, that's a bit problematic. You might also want to annex more vessels if you can. I don't know what the situation on those is. Am I wrong? No, oh, we're still on Yemen. Actually, let's look at Yemen first. I've just drifted off to Mamluks there. I mean, looking good. Can also tech up in middle, delaying that a bit, I guess, to finish quantity. I mean, can make sense. Obviously, you just have very strong ideas as Yemen, and you can see it developed quite well, especially the valuable provinces he has down here. So Yemen looking very well to me. I think moving on from that, we're going to have a look at Mamluks here. As I said before, diplomatic situation is looking bad to me because you have an alliance. Qara Qoyunlu and Yemen. Actually, it's just a line all the way up here. Enemies of Mamluks here. Then we have QQ also going this way now. So he's going to have, he's going to be surrounded by QQ's alliances all the way around, except for the west, where you have Andalusia with very bad land to expand into initially. I mean, I guess he can gobble up Andalusia, but he's running out of great land to expand into. He really needs to be forming Rum soon. That's just key for his survival even, I'd say. He's currently just missing one QQ province, so QQ is also controlling his ability to form Rum. And he needs to kill Byzantium off, which, I mean, that's a very good possibility to do so next session. I don't see any problem with this. But this just is really an exercise of trust. Is Qara Qoyunlu actually going to help you with becoming relevant in the long term, or are you going to have to fight for it? I think it's possible we are not going to see the transfer of Erzurum here, and then we'll have a war Mamluks against Qara Qoyunlu, where not many things speak for Mamluks, yes. Like, this border is very long, he is just surrounded, and they can go around and protect. They have mountains to protect themselves, which, like, Anatolia has some, but not as many. Also, he's not using the mountain in Divergi right now, so I guess he's not planning for war. But like, all the border provinces are mountains for Qara. You just have this heartland is all mountains. This is high development, obviously. It's very good land to develop, but yeah, I think it's a tough spot for Mamluks here, especially if he keeps his current allies. But I don't see any reason he would stop having those. Yeah, I mean, his ideas are worse, especially if Qara gets to be forming Persia soon, which we can have a look at quickly. Form the Persian nation is on the table, and he just needs Qom and Yazd after he is reformed. Reforming is the next thing he is going to do, which is in 1546, 5 years to go, and then get 3 provinces from Timurids. That's not looking good for you, Mamluks. You just need to speed up your things a bit, I think. Especially because Qara has actually already outgrown you, and now Yemen is catching up speed. Russia is a huge nation with obviously also huge military ideas. Yeah, I see problems on the horizon for Mamluks here. I think we can just loop back to Western Europe now, where we started after we took our detour through Africa, and take a look at France. So France is still not as strong as a France might be in the situation. He has 30k troops. Mainly he has a good amount of manpower for himself, but his development is a bit subpar compared to other European nations. He did manage to kind of unify his home region. Finally, he still has a lot of vassals that he probably kind of wants to get rid of around this time. He's annexing Brittany right now, which obviously makes sense for him. He just wants to have more control about over what he actually owns. His only ally is Britain, and I feel he's a bit isolated inside of Europe. Aztecs might come knocking soon. At least the threat from Austria is gone, with Austria having exploded in spectacular fashion this session. Also, good buildings left to build in France. If the constant wars that Britain was in weren't happening, I think they could be helping way more with France building up here. But other than that, I mean, it's absolutely stable. I don't see any reason why it should die next session. I just think it might be getting outscaled by the nations around it, which could lead to a demise later on. Just having a quick look at... Actually, let's have a look at ideas for a second too. Missing the third idea group and quite far away from getting it. That's a bit of a bummer, I'll see. So 16, 21 and 14. 21, 21, 21, 21, 11, 21. So 14 versus 21 is a big deal, especially because you're mostly missing quality here. So you really want to speed through this idea group. At least you do have military points stowed away for doing so. But you really need that third idea group, and you need to move through it quickly. Buildings, on the other hand, yeah. As I said, missing good buildings. Great Britain. He's, as I said, fighting a lot of wars all the time. Went expansion, quality, and economics, so he's good troops, but not too many of them. I'd expect him to have deft his nation a bit. Some degree, I'd say. Not bad, not great. Buildings-wise, he's doing better, obviously. Also, he has a lot of control over the English Channel. He managed to overthrow Burgundy and Holland here. Pretty much controlling all of the trade in the English Channel now, which makes him very rich. But given his lack of control over the New World, not as rich as you might expect someone to be in this region. Okay, other than that, I mean, it's looking good. He has his ideas done, but just the constant wars he's fighting everywhere don't really make sense for Britain, in my opinion. Like, he could be a bit more passive, generating more money, influencing through those means, influencing through money, instead of spending it on an army that can't really do too much with the quality it has. I mean, actually, right now it's still kinda comparable, although you're missing... Actually, you do have the... Yeah, you do have land leader fire. Okay, I mean, if you go to war, you want a discipline. I mean, it's kind of okay-ish in army quality, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, you get extra +5 from the edict. Well, 120% isn't terrible. So I suppose I may have underestimated the possibilities that the British army would have in a war. Okay, yeah, actually Britain seems good enough. Let's hop over to... Actually, I might be pissing off people here, but I think Holland and Burgundy are dead, so I'm just going to jump over them. Let's go to Westphalia, who formed out of Cologne last session. As we said before, good ideas, meta idea, constellation here. Not much land to expand into, but I mean, Holland and Burgundy are now up for grabs, so that might be something he'd be interested in. Other than that, it's just a typical HRE nation. Quite a lot of troops for the area he has, and very good quality on them. So I'd expect him to do pretty well in the coming sessions, especially because he's allied to Prussia, which obviously good nation to be allied to, strong nation to be allied to, and not a nation that will cause you any problems. Similarly, it means basically the same for every nation so in this region, so I'll just have a very quick look at Franconia and the other guys. Franconia, out of Skanderbeg, it seems like actually Franconia has one of the strongest militaries that we currently have in the game. Well, I mean, I'd be kind of surprised by that. Franconia isn't that big. Actually, I'm kind of forgetting how to speak right now. But apparently his military is very competent. Looking at his development, he devved up a lot. That's 400 development in this small area. I mean, you see it in all the provinces. They're basically all 20 dev, 30 dev, and they're well-developable provinces. That's very good for him. I mean, it's always good to play tall. You just get way more out of your ducats if you do, because every building is just such a big deal to build. So Franconia looking very well here, actually. Also having a lot of troops. I think he'd be very stronger than Westphalia, for example, in a 1v1 war. Which he might want to put to use, actually, next session, because expansion routes are basically over for him. I don't think he wants to go this way. So we might see Franconia being in a war against someone next session, although right now he's allied into most directions. Unless he wants to go for France, which, I mean, I guess you could do, but I'd be a bit surprised to see this happening. Although, I mean, you do have claims on that, but you'd have to kill your allies to do so. Yeah, I mean, Franconia, as I said, is a strong nation in this region. Very strong, actually, and I'd be not surprised if he decides to do something with it. Ideas, obviously, are meta ideas for everyone around here, basically. Yeah, it's just varying degrees of having them finished, but Westphalia, Franconia and Switzerland are basically the same nation, if you look through them. They're devved up, they've built buildings, they have all the ideas. Nothing to complain about in all those nations. As I said, it's the same for Switzerland. I don't see problems with any of these. Bavaria, a bit of a change here because Austria died. So he has land to expand into again, which he did. He gobbled up Steiermark and land in Austria proper. But he did not get a very good gold mine in Tyrol. I mean, just by virtue of being the weaker nation here, I think that's not something he would have expected to. He's part of an alliance trying to help Hungary. That's, other than him, it's Tuscany and Sweden that's trying to help Hungary from being killed by QQ any further. Alliance has only happened after Hungary lost in a kind of tight war, 1v1 against QQ. Like, he never had a chance to win, but he did delay his loss quite significantly, and I think he inflicted some damage on QQ. So Bavaria has his eyes set on getting this land in Austria, I'd assume. He's also the overlord of Tyrol, so this is very much locked down for himself. And I'd expect him to just expand also into Bohemia. Like, that's also land that could be interesting for him. Take land here, take land here. He got a bit scammed on all the gold mines, like Franconia took this one from Bohemia. But yeah, strong allies, very strong in his region, and also through the fall of Austria, there's land to expand into for him. So all in all, looking good for Bavaria and this region. Next nation we might want to look at in this general region would be Tuscany. Tuscany is, I think it's just, yeah, it's again meta ideas and all of them finished already. This is absolutely fine, as you'd expect. All the buildings are built. So what are you going to complain about here? He can build a bit more manpower buildings, and he doesn't have a terrible lot of manpower, but also a good amount of manpower. Yeah, there's nothing to complain about with this Tuscany. His expansion routes are getting a bit slimmer, and I think he's not exactly friendly with Switzerland. So his alliance situation might be a bit more interesting. He's allied to Papal State, which through some crises has become a bit weaker, and to Hungary. So I don't know, he might be willing to throw his weight around in conflicts like the Hungary versus the East, and maybe even the Aztecs invading Europe. I don't really know which alliances we're going to see against that. Tuscany could play a role in that. He has good troops and he has a lot of them. He could put them to use, obviously. So as I briefly mentioned, Papal State isn't doing as well. Yeah, a lot of rebels, manpower quite low, and also his max manpower is quite low, actually. He could activate the papacy again. So it's currently deactivated, or actually it did start a crusade against the against the Aztecs, which, I mean, makes sense for the Catholics to have a better shot at actually managing to do this. This might be a result of the debug again. I'm not sure, like, he has an active papacy. He could invest more into economic ideas. Not sure if he needs the textile manufactories that much. Yeah, that's a pretty useless national idea. I mean, it can go both ways. I don't know if he has a lot of autonomy. If he does, it might be... I mean, you can lower autonomy in a few places. Also, he did get a Venice now, which should be his main trade node. It's... yeah, it is. It is. Okay. Transferring from Ragusa, though. I'm not so sure about that one. Like, you do have control over Ragusa, but it's dirt poor. So you might be better off getting a trade fleet and sending it to Alexandria. Yeah, it's also not that much money thinking about it. But it's small. You might be able to get some trade flowing to Venice from there, which could benefit you more than Ragusa, maybe. Yeah, I mean, other than that, could be propagating religion somewhere, apparently. In Venice. Oh, that's curious. Not sure if that's actually something you would be wanting to do. Yeah, I mean, Papal State isn't that strong. Like, Tuscany really is way, way stronger, but they are working together, obviously. So, I mean, Papal State has the peace to recover in, and he also has expansion in Greece, as it seems. So I don't really see any threats in Bavaria. I think all the other nations in the world we're going to cover in a second part of this modscast. I'm not feeling like speaking anymore right now, so I'll recover my voice a bit and then record a second part where we start off with Lübeck and Prussia and move east and then to the New World, to the natives. And I will look around these regions of the map.